going to want to miss Rachel. I think there are some talks today that are totally true hits of positivity. There are some talks that are super practical. I think Dawn's was massively practical and inspiring, then so was Virginia's. And there are some talks that are just really, really special, no matter what you do, right? Like, no matter whether you run a business, you're not running a business. I think that Rachel's is one of those. She's going to be talking how to keep calm when the real world around you are losing their shit. Rachel, I'm a big fan of Rachel's, and I cannot wait for her to do this talk. So you guys, you have 1.5 minutes before Rachel comes on and delivers what I'm sure will be one of the highlights of this session. So please, please, please stick around, and yeah, really looking forward to it. We have a matter of minutes. Okie dokie. Rachel, are you ready?
I think I am. I wasn't feeling nervous until you gave me that introduction. Now I feel like there's no pressure, you know.
Keep you on your toes. Right, it's 11 o'clock. I'm going to leave you to do your magnificent thing.
Thanks, Matt. And thank you. I'm so happy to be here. It feels a real privilege to be alongside. I love my in-crowd fellow participants. They're such a genuine group of people, and I've been really enjoying all the talks so far. I hope you have been too. And I'm also really happy to be able to support such an amazing cause. One of the things that I noticed that we all have lockdown in common, but our individual circumstances are all massively different. And lockdown's such an amplifier of things in our life. So those things that actually we know we really need to be grateful for seem so much bigger. And also for some people, the things that are really awful are so much bigger. So please go and donate if you haven't already to the domestic abuse charity that we're fundraising for. Please, it's a really important cause at this time. So if you haven't done already, please go donate and help us raise money and help other people. So I'm Rachel Anderson. I'm with Tea and Empathy. It's a coaching practice. I've been coaching now for about 13 years. Before that, once upon a time, I was a forester. I used to grow trees. But yes, ma'am. So there's trees everywhere and plants and nature. I'm still rooted in all of that, if you'll excuse the pun. But I did find that over the years that I was more lit up by helping people to grow rather than helping trees to grow. But one of the things that I've noticed over the time that I've been coaching leaders and people in their personal lives too, is that often we get so fixed in trying to change. We get so caught up in what's wrong, what we feel is wrong with us. We get caught feeling that we're not enough and we should be like this. We set these hard goals. We're always moving forward. We've always got our eyes on some goal ahead, and we forget to look at who we are now and appreciate the richness of that and all that we can learn from the person that we're in this moment. We miss what's right underneath our nose. And paradoxically, that can get right in the way of us being able to make the changes that we want to change. So whereas you'll hear from a lot of coaches about setting goals and moving forward, I've preferred to be able to help people explore who they are right now and the light and the dark of that and the richness of that. And for us to be able to kind of relax back into who we are in this moment. And then paradoxically, when we stop trying to change so much, we grow and change naturally. We relax back into our natural selves, and then we are meant to grow, and we continue to grow naturally. So I don't know if you were here right at the start for Positive Neil's session, which I found fantastic right at the start of the day, setting us up. We also get quite in our heads. So I'd like us to just take a moment, and this is going to help me too as well, just to get into our bodies. So whether you're standing or sitting, wherever you are, just take a moment to adjust how you're sitting and feel your body. Have your back straight and your shoulders relaxed and your head high, and feel your feet on the ground. Feel your body. Notice how your body supports you, and take a really big deep breath in and breathe out, and try and bring your center of gravity down to your stomach. I'd like you to breathe in for a count of 2, hold it for 2, and then breathe out for 4. Breathe in for 2, hold it for 2, breathe out for 4. And you might like to keep doing that while I'm talking to you, but just keeping breathing, slow it down, get out of our heads so much. Just notice our bodies and how we're feeling. You might notice as you're breathing how the tip of your nose goes cool when you breathe in. You might notice where you're holding tension around your eyes or in your jaw or in your scalp. We often hold a lot of tension in our scalp. We might notice flutters in the stomach. Certainly I'm noticing that in having the talk. You might notice that perhaps you're feeling a little achy. So just notice. You don't need to fix, you're just noticing. Just simply noticing where we are and raising our awareness and noticing what's around us more. And that starts to help us to shift and change. So just keep breathing. That theme of not fixing and just noticing frees up a lot of energy, helps us to kind of step back, notice with curiosity rather than just getting caught up in the judgment that we have all the time. If we're able to shift into, what is that? I wonder what I may do about it, rather than immediately judging that something is good or bad, because there's always both. We'll be experiencing that in these circumstances. Yes, there's much that's really hard and difficult in here, and there's much that we're discovering, as the positivity pop-up is showing, that is powerful and good. It's both. One does not cancel out the other. We need the light and the dark if we're going to grow. So noticing both, allowing both. I noticed right at the start of the talk, somebody else, the talks this morning, somebody also said that they wanted some compassion and understanding. And that's really where I come from with tea and empathy. It's that we need a nourishing environment for us to be able to grow. But so often we create something that's hard and rigid and difficult. So taking that time just to relax, step back into ourselves, accept the good and the bad, to notice it and not judge it so much, allows us really then to start growing and releases a lot of energy for us to be able to move in the direction that we really want to be in, but while still appreciating and noticing where we are just now. So my topic today was on how to keep calm when all around, I won't swear because there may be children on, but everyone else is losing it. And because other people are so contagious. I don't know if anyone else finds that actually you're quite fine, and then someone has a conversation with you and they're all stressy, and suddenly you've caught that. You're feeling anxious, you catch their state. Or it can be the other way, like with the positivity pop-up, where people are so enthusiastic and upbeat. That's contagious too. We catch off other people, or we take on their state. It's part of being a human being. But it's important for us to remember within that actually we also have choice. If we're not aware, then we can fall into habitual patterns. If something will come along and trigger us, and then we immediately fall into a habitual response and give our power away sometimes. We feel like we're being done to. We blame other people. It's your fault that I'm feeling like this. And we give our power away without realising actually we can choose how we are. Now in the moment, yes, we have a trigger. It's an automatic response. It's a very primitive part of us that reacts to something as part of it. It's a survival mechanism. But how we continue to respond is still our choice. It was Viktor Frankl wrote, he was an Auschwitz survivor and wrote Man's Search for Meaning, which is an amazing book if anybody's not read it. It's only short and surprisingly uplifting, but in Man's Search for Meaning he wrote, "It's the last of the human freedoms for us to be able to choose our response in any circumstance." And he found in Auschwitz, they could take everything from him, absolutely terrible circumstances, but they could not take away his ability to choose how he wanted to be and how he wanted to respond. If you like, it's the ultimate control. When we can't control what's happening around us, when we can't control other people as much as we would like to be able to control other people, we just can't. The one thing that is always in our power is how we choose to respond, how we want to bring ourselves. Yes, it was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is the title of the book. Later on, I'll type it in. So it is I know I am a control freak. I do like to be in control, but it is liberating to realize there is actually only one thing that I'm able to control, and that is myself, that I always have a choice. It may not be easy. In the moment, I may get caught up, but actually I can pause, step back and think, how do I want to be? What matters most to me in this moment? And so we have a choice when all around us, when the news is negative, when people are being fearful and stressy, when there is so much anxiety, when we notice the anxiety coming up in ourselves, to be able to become aware of it, take a step back and think, is this how I want to be? And what am I making up? What are the stories that are in here? When we get sucked into that vortex of negativity or fear or anxiety or anger, then it's a whole neurological state. It's not just the way that we're thinking cognitively. We have big voices in our head making up big stories, dramatic stories, maybe very pessimistic and maybe very judgmental of other people. They're very loud stories, these noises in our head. We put two and two together and create an incredible big story. But it's also around how we are emotionally. We become flooded by our emotions rather than just in touch with them. We're driven just by what's happening in this storm that's going on, this vortex, and it impacts on us physically. We feel it in our body, whether it's tension or it's anger, or whether it's just hopelessness and boredom. We feel it physiologically as well as emotionally and mentally. And in that gives us some of the clues for how we can escape, how we can keep calm, as long as we are aware and we've caught it. If we're not aware, then it's hard to have the choice. Now, some of these ways of moving out of the vortex, you'll already know and use, because we all have things that we use all the time to help us shift our state back to something that's more resourced. For me, my emergency first aid treatment, when something's come along and triggered me, is to take a really big, deep breath. Breathing deeply like we were doing with the 2-4 not only means you get more oxygen, it also triggers the parasympathetic nervous system and helps calm the system down. So breathing is really important for helping shift the state. It's also, we may shift our posture as we did before. If our head is high and our back is straight and we're standing strong, it's much harder to hold a negative point of view. And we can feel far more resourced and strong. Going for a walk, getting some distance, sleeping on it, making sure that you have water. We're far more likely to get sucked into a vortex that feels out of our control if we haven't had enough water, if we're dehydrated, if we're hungry, if we're overtired, if we haven't moved all day. Those are circumstances that are far more likely to make us feel bad. So make sure you're giving yourself the physical basics. So doing some exercise, getting out, walking, sleeping, the physical basics can really help us stay calm and shift, as well as breathing. And we may connect to what matters most to us. Actually, what's important here? What's the thing that I want to hold on to? How do I want to be in this? It's important that we stay connected to our emotions because they inform us of what's going on. Don't deny your anger or your hurt or your sorrow, but don't allow it to overwhelm you and be the only thing. Don't be flooded by your emotion, just stay in touch with it. And in that balanced place, we know what's going on with us. We recognise the light and the dark, but we can make other choices. We can be at our best in challenging circumstances. It's not all about just the positive. It's around being able to hold the balance. Or we may be able to look at the stories in our head and see what it is that's actually true. Because we take facts, we take things that are just things that happen, actual facts, and then we create a story and meaning out of it, which may have truth in it, but actually gets blown up. Two people can encounter the same thing, the same facts, the same event, but they'll create a different story around it. It will hold some of their truth, but actually they're creating something bigger. There is always another way of looking at things. In fact, I'd like you to do that now. So you point at the ceiling for me and draw an imaginary circle on the ceiling in a clockwise direction. So clockwise, move your finger round and round. And then gradually, still moving your finger, moving clockwise, bring your finger down. I hope you're managing to follow this. Moving your finger clockwise until you're now looking down on it. Now, which way is your finger turning? It was turning clockwise. Now it appears to be turning anti-clockwise. The only thing that has changed is where you're looking at that from. The only thing that has changed has been your perspective. So two people looking at the same thing from a different place will see, one sees clockwise, the other sees anti-clockwise. Both are right and both are wrong. All that's changed is the meaning that we've connected to something in our perspective. So we are able to shift our perspective through choice or understand what it may look like in somebody else's shoes. So when we're feeling really angry at somebody else and their behaviour, take a moment to step in their shoes and open your heart to compassion to understand why they may be feeling that way, what may be going on for them. To see that they have another perspective, to see that somehow they are a hero in their own story. And they're not wrong to feel that. They might not be right, but that doesn't make them wrong. And then that opens different choices for us. So there are so many different techniques for how to stay calm. I could go on and on. I have an audio download, an audio you can access for one technique that I use, which draws from some pieces from NLP. I don't often use NLP, but this one's one I find quite powerful. And so I'll put up the link to that. And you can find me on my website, which is Tea and Empathy, and on Facebook. I'll put all the links in the chat box. But for now, I'd just like to hear from you. What have you taken from what I've said today? What's going to stay with you? Talk to me in the chat box about what's resonated the most and what you'll take away. And thank you very much for having taken the time to listen. And I'm so looking forward to hearing some of the other speakers that are still to come. There's some amazing, genuine people. Fingal, so yes, it's my party trick, as the there's a spinning finger. Yeah, thank you. It may not be right and make them wrong. I'm loving what you're taking. Thank you. Different way of looking at things. Thank you. Hi all. Ultimate freedom is always to be able to choose our response. Fantastic. Viktor Frankl, very powerful book, Man's Search for Meaning. Thank you all.
Rachel, thank you. Super powerful, as I knew it would be. We are blessed to have you with us sharing this stuff and triggering all of the thoughts and feelings and kind of reassurance as well that you give us. You know how much I value having you inside the in-crowd, but in my world as well. And so real blessed to have you here. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
And you're going to stick around for a bit, Rachel, right? So you'll be able to.
I'm around. I'm here to support everybody else, and because I'm getting so much from it too, so I'll be around in the chat box, or you can find me on Facebook. Come find me.
Cool, cool, cool. Thank you so much. Okay, guys. So we have I'm going to treat